My name is Alice Langston. I'm the lead strategist at a mid-sized tech consultancy in Chicago. And until this morning, I thought I had built something unshakable. 6 months of research testing revisions, late nights, and missed weekends had gone into developing a process that could cut our delivery timelines by nearly a third. It was my work, my breakthrough, and I was ready to present it to the board. I was running 15 minutes late because of a minor car accident. Some kid had rear-ended me in morning traffic, and while the damage was nothing serious, the delay had thrown me off. I called Vanessa, my new assistant, to let her know I was on my way. She picked up immediately and assured me everything would be fine. She said she'd handle things until I arrived. I thanked her. I didn't think twice. When I finally slipped into the boardroom, trying not to draw attention, my heart was still pounding. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what I saw. There on the giant screen at the front of the room was my presentation, my visuals, my metrics, my entire integration model. And standing confidently in front of it all was Vanessa laser pointer in hand voice, steady and clear, as she explained my findings to the executive team. I froze. For a second, I honestly thought I was hallucinating. But no. There she was, walking the room through the cost reductions, the operational advantages, the efficiency metrics I had spent months perfecting. I grabbed the back of a chair, my knuckles turning white. She wasn't just covering for me. She was taking full credit. Then came the part that hit like a gut punch. She spoke in a lowered, concerned tone, telling the board that the project had suffered from inconsistent leadership, that she had quietly stepped in to stabilize it behind the scenes. I saw heads nodding. People believe her. I wanted to scream, to shout that she was lying, but I stayed frozen. Our CEO leaned in, clearly impressed. Others took notes, eyes wide at the possibilities. Vanessa thanked them graciously. She said she believed in aiming high. I sat down in the back row unnoticed, disappearing. My body was in that chair, but my mind was unraveling. She had orchestrated all of it, for weeks, maybe months. I had trusted her, mentored her, even gone to HR to get her a housing allowance when she said she couldn't make rent. And now she was up there stripping me of everything I had built. She even put up a slide thanking others for their help, none of whom were me. The room burst into applause. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I just watched, as if someone had reached into my chest and pulled out everything I had worked for. And as she walked off the stage, smiling, the applause still ringing, I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was war. And I had no idea how to fight it yet. Looking back now, I can't believe how easily I let her in. Vanessa came in with glowing references and a smile that could melt ice. She said all the right things, asked all the right questions. During her interview, she told me she had followed my work since grad school. That was the way I approached innovation, was which inspired her to pursue corporate strategy in the first place. I should have seen that as flattery. Instead, I saw myself. She reminded me of who I was 10 years ago, hungry, driven, and full of potential. So I hired her. I didn't just offer her a job. I opened doors. In the first month, she reorganized my calendar so efficiently that I finally stopped missing internal review meetings. She color-coded my inbox, drafted agendas, and reminded me of team birthdays. She became indispensable. I even joked once that she was better at managing my life than I was. When she started expressing interest in our client delivery models, I saw it as an initiative. I gave her access to old case files. She devoured them. When she asked to sit in on strategy sessions, I let her. When she offered to draft portions of my quarterly update slides, I encouraged it. I thought I was mentoring her. I thought I was giving a young woman a chance to grow. I didn't realize I was giving her everything she needed to replace me. The first red flag came 3 months in. She returned from a meeting I hadn't attended and casually mentioned that she'd shared a few thoughts with the finance team about our restructuring model. I didn't question it. I thought maybe they had asked her to speak up, Then she began scheduling prep calls for me with no invites attached to her own calendar. When I asked, she just smiled and said she'd take notes in the background. I didn't think twice. Later that month, I noticed she had submitted a project brief to HR under our team's name. It listed 2 contributors, herself and one of our junior analysts. My name wasn't on it. When I asked, she acted surprised, said it must have been an oversight, and promised to fix it. She never did. I let it go. She told me once that she was grateful for my mentorship, that she felt lucky to be learning from someone so respected. I believed her. When she said she was struggling to pay rent, I personally pushed for her to receive a housing allowance. When she wanted to join a private data workshop, I signed off on the cost from my own departmental budget. When Thea from finance raised an eyebrow at the level of investment I was putting into Vanessa, I brushed it off. I said she wasn't just an assistant, that she was going to be a star. What I didn't realize was that she already thought she was. The missed credits, the private meetings, the subtle shift from we to I when she spoke about our work, none of it happened overnight. She was careful. She was strategic. And I was blind. There's this kind of guilt that settles in after betrayal, the kind that doesn't scream but simmers. It's not just that someone deceived you. It's the part of you that lets them. The part that wanted to believe so badly in someone's potential that you ignored the cracks forming right in front of you. I thought I was building someone up. Turns out I was handing her the blueprints to tear me down. It started slowly. Little shifts that didn't seem alarming on their own, but together formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. Vanessa began filtering emails, forwarding only what she deemed relevant, and summarizing the rest in short, polished updates. At first, it felt efficient. Then I realized I was missing entire conversations. Updates that used to come directly to me now came secondhand or not at all. Meetings I was once leading were suddenly being held without me. And when I asked why, she'd say it was a scheduling conflict or that it was just a quick sync she thought didn't need my attention. I began to notice team members hesitating when speaking to me, like they were waiting for Vanessa to approve their answers. When I asked a junior analyst for a dataset I had requested earlier, he told me Vanessa had already directed him to change the parameters. I asked why she was making those decisions, and he just shrugged, said he thought it was what I wanted. She had positioned herself as the buffer, the translator, the fixer. She made herself look essential while making me look disconnected, and it worked. The narrative she wove quietly, persistently, was that I was distracted, overwhelmed too, bogged down in detail to lead with vision. I caught wind of things she had said in meetings I wasn't invited to, that I was spread too thin. I struggled to delegate. The team needed stronger direction. And people believed her. Because on the surface, she was calm, composed, always prepared. While I was running between deadlines, managing multiple departments stretched thinner every week, I started doubting my own perception. Was I really losing touch? Had I misjudged what the team needed? It was like being erased in real time. One conversation, one meeting, one whisper at a time. And the worst part was I let her in. I had handed her the brush, and now she was repainting the story without me in it. The meeting lasted less than 15 minutes. Brighton, our CEO, sat across from me with Thea from finance and Mark from operations. Their expressions were polished, practiced, almost sympathetic. Brighton said the company had decided to appoint Vanessa as lead on the integration project. They appreciated my contributions, but felt a fresh approach was needed moving forward. They used words like transition, collaboration, and realignment. All I heard was removed, replaced, and sidelined. I kept my face still. I nodded at the right moments. I even thanked them for the opportunity to support the handoff. But inside, I was boiling. I walked out of that conference room with a smile on my face and fire under my skin. Vanessa passed me in the hallway moments later, beaming, already speaking with a client on her headset. She glanced at me, offered a quick nod like she was being gracious. I felt something twist deep in my stomach. That afternoon, I received a formal email outlining the transition plan. It asked me to forward all relevant documentation, brief Vanessa on client expectations, and be available for any technical clarification she might need. They expected me to hand over my work, to help the person who had just stolen my position succeed. I sat at my desk, staring at that email. Every word felt like a dare. It would have been easier to rage, to call them out, to walk away and protest. But something colder, sharper settled in me instead. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to wait. Because if Vanessa wanted to play the part, she'd have to deliver on every promise she made. And I knew the timelines she pitched were impossible. I knew the system wouldn't hold under the pressure she was putting on it. She wanted the spotlight. Fine, I'd give her the stage. But I'd be watching from the wings, waiting for the moment it all came crashing down. That night, after the transition meeting, I sat alone in my apartment with my laptop open and a glass of untouched wine beside me. The rage had passed. What settled in its place was colder, quieter, and far more useful. I realized I had two choices. I could fight, confront Vanessa, directly demand recognition, scream into the void, or I could watch her closely, let her own lies do the damage, and make sure when things fell apart, I had the truth ready. The decision came easily once I let go of pride. I started documenting everything, not just notes, but timestamps, meeting logs, email threads, backup versions of files. I'd pulled old drafts from our shared drive, made secure copies, and flagged inconsistencies. I didn't know when or how I'd use it. I just knew I had to be ready. Vanessa moved quickly. Within days of taking over, she revised the implementation plan, cutting the timeline nearly in half. She promised full integration in 60 days, a schedule I had previously proven unsustainable. I watched as she presented it confidently in team briefings, brushing off technical concerns with polished optimism. Every time she dismissed a risk, I took note. I paid close attention to how she handled the engineers. When one of them, Lila, raised doubts about system testing, Vanessa overrode her without explanation. When a client requested a demo, she exaggerated our readiness and downplayed the back-end issues. She was charming in meetings, relentless behind closed doors. She needed to appear flawless, and that need made her reckless. I didn't interfere. I attended transition sessions, answered her questions, and provided support like a good team player. I smiled when she thanked me for being professional. But behind that smile, I was watching everything. I cross-referenced her new roadmap with the original timelines. I tracked every deviation and labeled each unfulfilled promise as a point of failure in waiting. What she didn't realize was that she'd stepped into a minefield disguised as a shortcut. And I was the one holding the map. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I was waiting for gravity to do what it always does. Bring the illusion crashing down. And when it did, I'd be standing exactly where she left me. Quiet, steady, and ready. The invitation came through a week later. A stakeholder presentation is scheduled for the following Friday. Vanessa was set to unveil the accelerated implementation strategy in front of the executive board, department heads, and key clients. It was her big moment, the one she'd been racing toward with impossible promises and half-built plans. And I knew right away this would be the stage where everything would either come together or collapse in full view. I didn't announce anything. I didn't challenge her or request a spot on the agenda. I simply prepared. I pulled up the original project brief I had authored months ago. The technical specs, testing timelines, risk assessments, contingency plans, every detail carefully documented and dated. I saved it all to a private drive. Then I created a supplemental file that outlined every deviation Vanessa had introduced, each one marked with why it wouldn't hold. 2 days before the meeting, I asked Brighton for a few minutes of his time. I kept the tone light. I told him I had some concerns about the upcoming presentation. I didn't accuse, and I didn't speculate. I simply said that certain deliverables being promised might not be as achievable as they appeared and suggested it might be wise to ask for specifics. He nodded thoughtfully. He said he appreciated the heads up. That was all I needed. I confirmed my attendance and chose a seat near the back of the conference room, somewhere I could observe without becoming the focus. I watched Vanessa rehearse in the days leading up to the presentation. Her energy was magnetic. She moved through the office like someone who had already won. The team seemed swept up in it. She'd built a story around herself so polished that no one questioned what lay underneath. But I knew. I knew the infrastructure wasn't ready. I knew the security layers hadn't been tested. I knew her answers would unravel the moment someone asked the right question. And all I had to do was be there when it happened. I wasn't planning to interrupt. I wasn't even planning to speak. I just needed to create the space where truth could walk in on its own, and when it did, I'd be ready to back it up. Quietly. Precisely. Completely. The conference room was already full when I arrived. Executives lined one side, client reps on the other, and department leads filled the rest of the seats. I chose a chair near the back, deliberately out of sight, but close enough to catch every word. Vanessa stood at the front, back straight, smile, sharp dressed like she'd stepped out of a leadership brochure. She looked like she belonged there. She wanted everyone to believe she always had. Her first few slides went smoothly. She spoke about momentum, agility, and vision, words that sound impressive even when they say nothing. Then came the timelines. She promised full integration across 3 client systems in under 60 days. Every eye in the room stayed fixed on her, but I saw the first flinch. Neris, from the tech team, leaned forward, scribbling something in her notebook. Across from her, Mark from operations raised an eyebrow. Vanessa didn't slow down. She laid out accelerated testing phases, compressed onboarding schedules, and a full security upgrade by the end of the quarter. I saw the clients nodding, hopeful, hungry for results. Then came the first real question. Orla, head of infrastructure at one of our largest partners, asked how our security enhancements would meet their compliance benchmarks in such a short window. Vanessa didn't blink. She spoke about automated checks, parallel validations, phrases that sounded familiar but didn't mean what she claimed. That was when the mood began to shift. Neris looked up from her notes, her jaw set. Penn, our head of systems, tapped something into his tablet. They were connecting the dots. Vanessa answered with confidence, but her explanations skimmed the surface. No specifics, no technical grounding, just language polished enough to stall most people. But not this room. Not today. These weren't marketing folks. These were clients who had staked their rollouts on our promises. Executives whose reputations depended on delivery. Technicians who knew what could and couldn't be done. I sat completely still. My hands folded in my lap. My breathing is slow. I didn't move when the questions got sharper, when the answers started circling, when I saw the first hint of doubt flicker in Brighton's eyes. I had done everything I needed to do. Now it was her turn to keep the illusion alive, and I knew the cracks were coming. I just had to wait. It happened faster than I expected. Penn eyes narrowed, asked Vanessa to walk through the specific validation protocol that would allow security testing to be completed in 2 weeks. She hesitated. Just for a second. But in a room like that, with those stakes, 1 second was enough. Brighton turned toward me. His voice was calm but deliberate. He asked if I had insight into the original timeline and whether the compression Vanessa proposed was technically possible. I stood slowly. My legs felt steady. My voice is even. I said no. That our original projections had been based on detailed infrastructure assessments and layered validation protocols. I said cutting those steps wasn't just risky, it was reckless. I opened my tablet and mirrored it to the screen. On it was the project draft submitted under my name 3 months earlier. The metadata showed the author, the date, and the version history. Line by line, I walked them through the original plan. Then I overlaid Vanessa's new schedule. highlighted the cuts, the corners, the critical safety steps she had skipped. My voice stayed calm. My tone never wavered. But every word landed like a hammer. There was silence. Real silence. Not the kind of people who fill with polite nods or corporate phrases, but the kind where everyone in the room is recalibrating everything they thought they knew. Vanessa opened her mouth, said the document was collaborative, that she had contributed. Penn pulled the metadata. Her name wasn't on it. Brighton didn't speak. He didn't need to. The truth was sitting in front of everyone. Orla asked what would have happened if Vanessa's plan had been greenlit, as promised. I said we would have compromised data integrity across 3 systems and failed 2 regulatory audits before implementation even began. Then I stopped talking. I didn't need to say more. Vanessa's face was a mask, still tight, unreadable, but I saw the flicker in her eyes. Not confusion, not regret, just the slow realization that the show was over. I sat down. No applause, no dramatic exit, just the room shifting its weight back toward reality. And in that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt something better. I felt clean. I had told the truth. And this time, finally, it was enough. After the dust settled, I sat alone in my office, the one I almost lost. My name was still on the door. My files were still in the drawer, but something inside me had shifted for good. I had seen how quickly trust could be weaponized, how ambition without integrity could burn through a system like a slow leak in a gas line, silent but dangerous. What I lost wasn't just a title or a presentation. I lost my sense of safety. The belief that if you worked hard, stayed honest, and treated people well, the system would protect you. That belief is gone now, and maybe it needed to be. But in its place, I found something else. I found proof that truth, when patient and prepared, can still win. Maybe not loudly, maybe not instantly, but it does. I used to think that defending yourself meant reacting fast and hitting back harder. Now I know sometimes the most powerful move is standing still, letting the lies stretch too far until they snap under their own weight. I didn't destroy Vanessa. She did that on her own. All I did was hold the mirror. The people who matter saw what they needed to see, not because I forced them to, because the facts made it impossible not to. I don't know what comes next for me here, maybe a new role, maybe a new company. But wherever I go, I'll take this lesson with me. Don't confuse silence with weakness. Don't mistake kindness for naivety. And never hand your name to someone who's only interested in using it. The truth is, I wouldn't undo what happened, because now I know exactly who I am under pressure. And that's worth something. If you've ever been betrayed at work or had your efforts stolen, I want to hear your story. What did you learn from it? How did you respond? Drop your experience in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it right now. Have you ever been betrayed in the workplace?